The world has millions of shipping containers sitting idle, yet companies keep making 2.5 to 3 million new ones every year. Cargo ships stream into American ports day and night, stacked high with containers from across the Pacific. But when it is time for those boxes to go home, the story takes a strange turn. China's trade surplus with the US hit $823 billion in 2023, meaning far more goods flow east to west than the other way around. The result is this: for every 10 containers that arrive full, only about 4 leave the US with cargo inside. The rest sit empty, scattered around ports and storage lots from Los Angeles to Savannah. Over 3 million idle containers are estimated to be stranded in the US alone, with some ports reporting entire fields of unused metal boxes. This is not a temporary hiccup. It is baked into the system. Every year, factories in China churn out another 2.5 to 3 million brand new containers, even as the old ones pile up in the wrong places. The imbalance is so extreme that it shapes the entire life cycle of a shipping container, turning what looks like waste into a strange kind of economic logic. The world's supply chains keep moving forward, but the containers themselves often get left behind. Every time an empty container needs to make its way back across the Pacific, a whole series of costs kick in, each one stacking up before the box even leaves the ground. The journey starts with a truck, or what the industry calls drayage. Hauling a single empty container from a storage lot to the port can run anywhere from $100 to $300, depending on distance and local demand for drivers. Once the container arrives at the terminal, there is another charge just to get it through the gates. Terminal handling fees typically add another $100 to $300 per box. If the container cannot be loaded onto a ship right away, storage fees start to tick upward, usually $10 to $25 per day, and sometimes much higher if the port is crowded or space is tight. But the biggest expense is the ocean journey itself. Even though empty containers take up less weight, they still claim valuable space on a ship. Ocean carriers charge anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 to move a 40-foot container from Los Angeles back to Shanghai, depending on the season and how many empty slots are available. Each of these numbers might seem manageable on its own, but together they add up quickly. By the time all the bills are tallied, repositioning a single empty box can easily cross the $2,000 mark, sometimes much more. For every container, companies have to weigh these costs against the alternatives, and the math rarely works out in favor of the long way home. Stacking up the numbers, the math behind container abandonment starts to look almost upside down. Take a standard 40-foot box. Getting it from a storage lot in Los Angeles back to a factory yard in Shanghai isn't just a matter of finding space on a ship. First comes the inland leg. Drayage and terminal handling can easily total $500 to $900 depending on distance and congestion. Storage fees rack up while the box waits for a slot, often adding another $200 to $350. Then comes the ocean journey, which even at discounted empty rates usually costs $1,200 to $1,800. By the time the container rolls off the ship in Shanghai, the total bill often lands between $2,000 and $2,800. In some cases, delays or market surges push this well above $3,000. Now compare that to the price of a brand new 40-foot container coming straight out of a Chinese factory, $3,000 to $3,800, depending on steel prices and order volume. For a smaller 20-foot unit, new builds start around $2,000 to $2,800. Repairs and maintenance add another layer. Each trip can tack on $50 to $100 or more, especially for older boxes that need patching or recertification. The biggest players, leasing giants like Triton and Textainer, run these calculations constantly, managing fleets in the millions and weighing every move against the bottom line. When the numbers line up this way, abandoning a container in the United States or selling it off for local use can actually cost less than sending it home. The math isn't a one-time fluke. It's a built-in feature of how the global container system keeps itself running, even as more new boxes roll off the line every year. On the outskirts of Shanghai, entire city blocks are devoted to one thing: building metal boxes. China now produces about 95% of the world's shipping containers, and the reason comes down to a mix of raw scale, ruthless efficiency, and geography. 3 megafactories, CIMC, CXIE, and Dongfang, dominate the market, each capable of churning out thousands of containers every single day. These are not old-fashioned assembly lines. Automated welding arms dance along rows of steel panels, cutting and joining with precision. Conveyor belts shuttle half-finished boxes from one station to the next, while robotic sprayers coat them in thick, weatherproof paint. The entire process is designed to shave minutes off production and pennies off every unit. The secret is not just automation. China's factories sit next to some of the world's largest steel mills, drawing directly from local suppliers. This cuts out shipping costs for raw materials and locks in lower prices, especially when steel markets swing. Vertical integration means the same company often handles everything from rolling the steel to loading the finished containers onto outbound ships. With energy subsidies and government support, Chinese manufacturers can weather downturns and ramp up quickly when orders surge. By concentrating production in a handful of coastal hubs, they keep logistics simple and cost predictable. For the rest of the world, trying to compete is almost impossible. Building a container in Europe or North America often means paying 2 or 3 times as much for labor, steel, and compliance. Even with global oversupply, Chinese factories keep running, feeding the cycle with another 2.5 to 3 million new containers each year. The result is an endless river of metal flowing out of Chinese ports, ready to replace any box that is too expensive to bring home. A shipping container isn't just a steel box. It's a globetrotter with a surprisingly long life. Most spend 10 to 15 years riding the world's trade routes, racking up more than 50 ocean crossings and thousands of miles on trucks and trains. Even after their days at sea are over, the story doesn't end. The average container sticks around for up to 25 years in total, finding new roles far from the docks. Some end up stacked in storage yards, quietly waiting for a future that may never come. Others get a second career as pop-up offices, backyard sheds, or even tiny homes. In Australia and Europe alone, 100,000 containers are repurposed every year. The rest, about 70 to 80%, are eventually cut up and recycled, their steel melted down to start the cycle again. But making a brand new 40-foot container releases nearly 3 tons of carbon dioxide, so every box that is reused or recycled saves both money and emissions. For every container left behind, there is a ripple effect that stretches far beyond the port. Sensors the size of a matchbook now track a container's every move, beaming location and temperature data to the cloud in real time. By 2030, as many as 10 to 15% of containers worldwide are expected to carry these smart tags, turning what used to be a guessing game into a precise science. With better tracking, companies can spot idle boxes faster and reroute them before costs spiral out of control. Some are going even further, pooling their containers in shared fleets. Think of it as car sharing, but for steel boxes. Instead of each shipping line hoarding its own surplus, these shared pools can cut empty repositioning by up to 15%, saving money and freeing up space at crowded ports. On the materials front, new containers are starting to roll off the line made with greener steel. Factories piloting low-carbon techniques have already slashed emissions by as much as 50% per box, moving the industry closer to a future where global trade is not just faster and smarter, but cleaner too. Right now, it is often cheaper to build a new container in China than to send an empty one home, simply because trade flows, labor costs, and an $823 billion export surplus make the math work. The system's hidden logic stacks up even as the world's ports overflow. What do you make of it?